Hello everybody and welcome to the Commexis Cast Daily for Friday, October 20th, 2017. All the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. I'm Matthew McGrorty, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis. And today I'm joined by lead strategist at Commexis, Phil Brooks.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
And the president of Commexis, Len Ward.
Good morning.
Yes, happy Friday. So our first story today, Buzzfeed on Wednesday came out with an article that was a very long, in-depth investigation into an ad fraud scheme that was perpetrated by basically somebody in the industry who was purposely creating web pages and using a bot network for this ad fraud scheme. So BuzzFeed reported that approximately 40 websites used a special code that triggered an avalanche of fraudulent views of video ads from companies such as P&G, Unilever, Hershey's, Johnson & Johnson, Ford, and MGM, according to data gathered by an ad fraud investigation firm, Social Puncher, in collaboration with BuzzFeed News. Over 100 brands saw their ads fraudulently displayed on the sites, and roughly 50 brands appeared multiple times. So Pixelate referred to the group of properties it investigated as zombie sites. Basically, they were sites that would appear, and when a bot accessed a special URL, it would make ads just pop up, sometimes multiple at the same time if they were video ads, and it would just repeatedly do this nonstop. And the way that it was not caught was that if a human accessed the URL, they would access basically a regular site. It didn't look like anything that people would really want to go on. The sites kind of looked poor quality, the copy was very good, or was just blatantly plagiarized. But the bot network obviously was what was making them this money. So again, it basically had a friend or foe system. If it was a bot, they got a special link. If it was a human, they didn't. And Social Puncher identified the secret URLs and then was able to access them in order to verify that it did this. And there's the BuzzFeed article, which we'll link in the podcast description. It's really long and it's really good. And it goes in depth of like how all of these companies are connected to one another and a bunch of other things. But the main premise is that there was this huge ad fraud scheme going on.
Yeah, I think that this, first of all, I want to commend BuzzFeed for doing some great journalism here. It's amazing to me that they started off with doing what they're doing, but I can think of at least 2 or 3 instances in the last couple of years where they've done some amazing work with in-depth stories of this caliber. So hats off to them. But yeah, I mean this is an amazingly just the breadth of this and depth of this scheme, just kind of to see the scope of it it really makes you take pause, because you understand just not only how many people are being affected, but look at the names of the companies here. I mean, these are huge companies. You don't get much bigger than Unilever and Procter & Gamble and Ford. I mean, these are not only huge companies, but huge ad budgets. So I mean, this would be an astronomical change on anybody else's budget, but for them, it's probably more of a blip, and you're more likely to get away with it.
And that's why they did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think when you look at it, and again, the article is tremendous. It's really in depth, and I like how they kind of line up all the parties that were involved. But you know what this shows? This shows a common theme we've discussed a lot in the podcast. This shows the lack of experience, once again, of people working in an ad agency who are being held accountable for analytics, who are being held accountable for referral traffic and everything else, saying, what is going on here? Why are we spending this money? Like, what, this person, they're not even coming to the site. Like, I understand that there's a branding message you're trying to go for, and branding, you don't really need them to come to the website. You're just trying to reinforce your brand. I get that, but this to me is like, it's almost to the point where it's just your lack of experience they're profiting off of.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not looking at referral traffic to see where this stuff is coming, how are you adjusting your strategy going forward to say, okay, well, this is working, this isn't working, here's an audience that this is resonating with, and here's an audience that it might not be resonating with? Like, if you're not looking at that data to adjust your strategy on the fly, what are you doing?
Yeah, and it's almost like they're baking in, if you're an agency, if you're a client and an agency's selling you on views, don't sign that contract. there are parts of an advertising campaign where you have to accept views and impressions as just part of the overall branding strategy. But if you're someone as large as some of these companies, or even if you're small, you really have to hold everybody accountable for where your ad dollars are going. I can't believe this actually went on.
Yeah, for as long as it did.
Yeah, I mean, these are some pretty smart companies, the ad dollars that are in play here. But I think it goes to show you, what a lot of people have been saying from the top down. There's a lack of transparency right now. They want to know where their money's going. They feel like their money's going in a black hole. And, again, I think that at high time, there is a serious need for an in-depth ROI model that all ad agencies have to roll out. And as much as we have to roll it out, is as much as the client has to accept this ROI model as what it is, and kind of begin to have a dialogue or a conversation on what's going on. Because these stories are just going to continue. They're just going to keep profiting off you monthly if you don't start holding people accountable.
Yeah, I thought something you said that was really interesting. It was that you think about the values of impressions and views. You really have to sit down with your agency and decide what the purpose of your campaign is. Is it just getting your name out there and noticed? Because these are huge brands. They don't need impressions and views. Everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
So if it's more of a conversion-based metric, then you should be able to see that you're getting all this traffic with not one conversion as a result of it, and therefore you should see your metrics and say, look, something's wrong. We're getting all this traffic and none of it's leading to a conversion, so that should be a huge red flag to begin with. But yeah, I think Len's nailed it. I think it's really just more proof that we need an ROI-based model for what you're doing. At the very least, define what your purpose of your campaign is.
Well, our second article for today is from Digiday, and it's about the post-autoplay world with some ad blockers coming out to stop autoplay.
So I've found interesting simply because it's talking about something that's become sort of accepted as a practice within the industry, which is autoplay video. And I think that it's fascinating to me that this has become something that people really think is kind of a user experience that has to be there, because honestly, it's a terrible user experience. Nobody wants autoplay video. Nobody. Yeah. And I think it's pretty interesting that some of the companies are now starting to realize that user experience is more important than monetization, is because you risk alienating your audience. And I think that because of that, we've had numerous conversations about articles in the last few weeks where the ad agency is starting to police itself by realizing that these things don't work and they do alienate clients. But it's kind of coming, the barn door's already open and the cows have gotten away, because these are the browsers that are driving this trend. Safari and Chrome are both looking at ways to already block this stuff, and so people are starting to react to that before it actually happens. So, for example, Time and so on their sites like Real Simple and Travel and Leisure have begun to really clearly label click-to-play videos. They've done away with autoplay. Same deal for the Washington Post, which again, the statement that I really want to take away from this. So Jared Dicker from the VP of Commercial Product Innovation at the Post says, the assumption is now that autoplay is a bad user experience, and to be honest, I can't believe that that's something that just happened. I mean, it's always been a problem, especially now that people are on mobile devices. The last thing you want, you pull up something on your phone and all of a sudden it starts blaring sound and music.
Well, and that's in the autoplay also. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on this. The autoplay is also because when you do autoplay, now you can now start showing the results to your client that they watched a video for XYZ seconds.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like you're almost giving a free second or two from if it is an ad.
Yeah, and that's interesting you point that out, because that's sort of where this article goes next, which is to say that Brian Rifkin of JW Player says that basically the buzzword for 2018 is intent to watch, which is essentially you're turning off the autoplay with replacing it with something that gives you the option to either click to play, or you can play with captions, or you can just turn off the sound option, and that forces people to really kind of initiate and engage with the video if they really want to watch it, and that becomes a valuable metric for advertisers because now they've taken that extra step to actually watch the video. They need to do something else to do it, and I think that as a metric, is an engagement metric that's far more valuable than just measuring, hey, somebody sat through this video for 3 seconds while it was scrolling.
Yeah, I think the story here is readers want video, but they want it on their terms.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do that. And if you have really good creative stuff that's funny, and says a message about a brand, they're going to watch your commercial, So
Did you? I feel like you read this before.
I did. I swear to God.
Because that's the next part, which is the high quality videos will speak for themselves, and it doesn't matter if you do the autoplay or not. If it's something that, if people already like your brand, they're already engaged with you, and they match with your voice, and you make good content that's high quality and relevant to the story that it's paired with, people are going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Len just said, which nails it.
Yeah.
Well, thank everybody for tuning in to today's episode of the Commexis Cast Daily. Check us out every weekday next week for more of the latest trending news. Have a great day.
Thanks.